Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries presents Friday Night Bible Study. Our Friday night Bible studies are held in the United Kingdom, Atlanta, Georgia, St. Louis, Missouri, and in the state of New Jersey. Welcome to Friday Night Bible Study.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, my Israelites. How are you guys doing? How are you feeling? We are here on this Friday night with a Rise takeover, and I'm here with some Rise members and a minister. I'll let everybody introduce themselves.
Peace. As I don't know if it's my computer screen, but like you freezing for me.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Peace, Minister Anthony here, St. Louis branch. Excited for another Friday night Bible study. I get to be a part of Rise for one night, so I'm definitely excited.
Yes.
Peace. Also excited. Excited to kind of talk about our topic because it's been on my mind lately. It's crazy how we're in sync to kind of think about this and talk about this. So I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
Peace, everyone. Micah, I guess also technically St. Louis still kind of, but excited as well. You know, this is a topic that can go many directions, so I'm excited.
So we have a Rise takeover, so that means that we are going to take over, and that means that I also need that comment section to be taken over as well. So we're going to need the 5s, the 7s. We want interaction, and we're going to have a good time, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get into this. So our topic today is social media versus reality. We can get our first slide deck going. Let's get the conversation running. All right, so social media versus reality, right? So if you are entertained by the graphics, it's because it is kind of this balancing act, which you can even call something like a game, where you have social media and you have real life, and oftentimes these things can clash. And it's really in our best interest to understand how these things work together, just because we know how important social media is in our lives and just how hectic it can even create our lives. It is attached to our commerce. It is attached to our social skills. It is attached to the way that we think. So that means that it is attached to the fabric of our brains. So we want to see what that battle is about. And as Israelites, it's very important that we understand our physical health as well as our spiritual health and our mental health, so that we can praise the God of Israel in the most healthy way that we can. Right. So how do you guys feel about this so far?
No, I love that. It's weird, right? Because I find myself sometimes still trying to fully understand social media. Like I can't, I'll jump on sometimes and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't. I know one thing I cannot do is TikTok. I can't. There's it's too much coming at me at one time. So it's weird because I find myself craving, because I grew up a time period outside of social media.
Mm-hmm.
I remember social media being introduced, and even to where we are now, and it's like it's weird because it's like what is this fully? So you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of that love-hate balance.
Yep, it's new. Yep,
It's crazy because we have a kind of a amalgamation of different generations here, slightly different generations. We're not too far off, but our introduction to technology and social media at each of our age groups, maybe besides me and you, Ezra, but maybe it was different, I don't know, but was different, and it came at different parts of our life. And I'm interested to see kind of the stories of how it kind of came to play and how you interact with it now as well. Yes,
I think that's a very good point. Because we initially had another Rise member, London, that was going to join us today, who's even younger. You know, she's still in high school. And I did want to get her points as well. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it tonight. But I think that is very true how social media has came into our lives at such different points. And so it's very interesting to see, like, where if you lived most of your life without it, how you use it, how it affects you, versus growing up in it and having it all the time, and how that affects. Because a point that we were even making when we were practicing this or going over this was the fact that a lot of us on the panel, we remember lives before social media was so prevalent, you know, and it was already hard, you know, And there was already social mishappenings, and going through school and social situations was already hard. So now you're adding this extra layer, making it even more difficult to accomplish things in your life and to feel like you have a meaningful social life and to feel like you matter. I think that's what a lot of people struggle with nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Every
think
time.
sorry.
Go ahead. Okay. Every time I think about the topic between like reality and social media, I always think about like why social media became such a big thing. Like obviously, you know, with new technologies, new ways of communicating with each other are naturally going to come about. The whole Tower of Babel situation, you know, we're all going to continue to build up until we get to a point where we're getting too close to the sun and we're going to have to be knocked back down. You know what I'm saying? So it's all very I'm losing the word for it, but when you think about the purpose of social media and what it does to the young minds and what it does for the older generation, it built a divide, it built a gap, and once you observe that gap and the differences between those generations and how they think and how they perceive the world, then you're going to see like what the real purpose of social media is and how they're doing these things, they're putting these messages out there, but it's not for everyone, and they have a target audience, is what I'm trying to say, and that target audience, they're our future. So we have to keep in mind that we gotta, filter the things that we consume so that we're not rotting our brains, and we, keep our spirituality at the forefront, and just know that our reality is also very spiritual. It's social media and reality are two different sides of the coin. And we need to remain on the reality side, stay grounded. Because if we get lost, in the world and all the likes and the comments and the this and the that, seeking validation, it could really mess with our spiritual aspects as well. And that's very important as an Israelite.
I think it's really interesting. I love all of your points.
Yeah, sevens and fires in the chat for that. That was what you said.
All of what you said is true. And even how you are mirroring it in the story or the actual historical fact of like the Tower of Babel, and making sure that we kind of see that connection, because I think when we talk about bringing biblical values and stories and our heritage into our current times, communication is such an important part of that. And so I think it's important to go back into our scripture, in our Psalms, in our in our stories and our chapters, to kind of see that, because communication is so important. I mean, God of Israel communicates with us, most likely through someone, but through us individually. We communicate with each other, especially as we are in different branches and different countries and different continents even. So I think communication is such a big, important part of our story from the beginning until now, that it's important to talk about the ways in which we communicate now and how it even connects back to how we used to communicate back then.
Wow,
nice.
That's a very good point. Yeah. You want to add something?
Yeah, I want to go back to a point you said earlier about the struggles of social media. Even that to me is a foreign concept, because I was an adult when social media came to fruition. So I looked at it always as a tool, something fun to do. I guess I never looked at it as a weapon, so to speak, right? To where you have maybe cyberbullying and things of that nature that even happens. Because in my mind, I'm like, hey, just cut it off or delete. I don't make it, to make it go away, because it's weird in that sense. Like it's like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Like why are we gravitating to this so much so that every minute and second of our life we are drawn to scrolling to see this or to see that? Like that to me is like, okay, it's like a drug.
Yeah.
Like what is pumping this dopamine up to make it a necessary evil to be like, I need to check this, I need to check this, I need to be updated every 2 minutes. What's going on?
Yeah.
Like something within that is just is I don't want to sound like the old bat lady, right? So it's where everything is evil and crazy, but
you're not wrong. Not wrong.
Something within that, it makes you stop and it makes you want to run the opposite direction.
It's funny you say the you mentioned cyberbullying, because as well as cyberbullying, which can happen directly or indirectly, there's also cyber idolization as well that occurs too. And then there's where you feel you fall on the spectrum that is going to affect your esteem in real life. But these things aren't real. This is a perception of how you think other people think, you know? It really makes me think about even what it feels like to be off of social media. If you are off of it, sometimes it is like you realize that the Matrix, you know, if you've ever seen the movie The Matrix, exists, and you're now stepped out of the world that everyone else is a part of, you know? So it gives you an interesting perspective to step away, as you said, Minister Anthony, because when you're in it, it's like, oh, I need to know this, I need to know that, I need to know that, but you don't really need to know it, you know? So anyway, let's get our conversation rolling. We got a lot to talk about, and I think it's gonna be a good conversation. Okay, so the double-edged sword of social media. So as we've discussed, it's a powerful, powerful tool that spreads knowledge and connects people, right? So Micah was saying, how did it get this far? Because that's a pretty powerful thing that it's able to do. But as we know, it is a source of distraction, negativity, and of course, vanity. And we know how strong that vanity can stretch within us. As Israelites, how do we ensure that our use of social media aligns with who we are? So let's go to the next slide and get this conversation started. So I don't want to just fully attack social media, although there is a lot to do there. We can start with the benefits. I just want to know, how do you guys feel that these topics, I have written here, self-awareness, community connections, and networks. What have been some of the benefits that you guys have seen social media has provided?
I think that having access to social media definitely shows you how crazy the world can get. Like even just like having TikTok, like forget every other piece of social media, focusing just on TikTok, the amount of news that I consume on a daily basis is more than I ever would have thought in my younger years I'd be able to consume. Because I'd watch people watch the news and be like, man, I don't care about none of that stuff, right? But now I'm checking my phone every day to see, oh, what plane crashed or what war is going on or what bomb just went off in the Middle East, or you know what I'm saying? And the world is crazy. And so having all that information just come in all at once, you know, it can make you pessimistic, but it's also good to be informed just about the state of affairs. So you know that maybe I shouldn't go on a plane right now, you know what I'm saying? Like they're crashing a lot. Or, you know, maybe I shouldn't take a trip to America. That president kind of tripping right now, you know, like all that stuff. Like it's a like you said, it's a double-edged sword. It can do good and evil, but it does bring us together in the knowledge that it brings, like the community, just nations together in support of other nations, people together in support of you know, doing right by other people. You know, Black Lives Matter movement, all that stuff. Yeah, just the general awareness of everybody is a good thing. You know, it could seem bad because when it's overwhelming and, you know, you don't feel like stepping out the house anymore. But all in all, it is a good thing, because being blind to everything that goes around in the world is not going to benefit you in any way. Right.
Yeah. That's you made a lot of good points, Mike. You made a lot of good points. I think that it's interesting that you offered that as a positive, because I think that there are positives to that, because the last thing you want to do is to be stuck into a prison wall that America tries to create, as we're the good guys, don't even think about, you know, what's going on out there.
That's another thing. Propaganda is a tool that is meant to keep us in a cage. And that's the other part of social media, that it's like, why did it get so big? Why did it become this great tool that's meant to like have us looking at our phones 24/7? Like, look at North Korea. Like, they have no access to outside internet. Everything is concealed into that one country. And we just now were able to, that's this news I just found on TikTok. We were just able to get into North Korea and get some actual pictures and stuff of what is going on in there. And the amount of propaganda that they have in their books in the schools, the the way that their markets work, the way that they interact with each other, like the way that they just roam around, like it's a completely different world because they're so separated from social media. So you could look at that as a good thing and a bad thing, but I feel like the important thing is that social media should be a tool for the people, not for governments to be exploiting and putting this propaganda into society and keeping information out or feeding information, like false information, to us, because that, you know, it confuses us, you know what I mean? And then we have to go digging, and then all of a sudden there's revolution, and it escalates to a point where there's a point of no return. So, you know, you got to consider all these different things, and it's like, is social media even worth getting into?
All those things.
Like,
yeah, I think the propaganda is going to be there with anything.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, whether it's newspaper, television, printouts that you see at a bus stop, is always going to be propaganda around. The biggest part of when you say the positive attributes of social media is it's hard for me to I guess really highlight or put a spotlight on the positives. Don't get me wrong, right? I have had opportunities to for network and see things going on in the community that I might not have been aware of. But to me, the actual need to be on it is where it almost starts.
Like to participate, you mean?
Yeah, like it is.
Have a profile and interact and like try to build a following, like that you don't support.
Because, well, the thing is, like, you have to be on it to know what's going on with it.
That's true.
To be on it is consumed. Now you're consumed with it. And then, so how will you now navigate this, right? Whereas, again, growing up, it was different, right? There was a reason we went to, you know, hang out at certain places, or, you know, be at a barbershop all day, or go to this store, go to this mall, go get a newspaper to see what the headline is, and then go to another source and try to gather that information. Whereas now it comes at you at one point, right? Like you said, there are positives there because you do have access. I can, like you, I think Naomi mentioned it. I have access to people who don't live where I live that I can talk to, and then I can be like, oh, okay, oh, wow, that's interesting. I had no idea that was going on there. And all that is definitely on the surface very positive, because think about how hard it would have been before. Think about how hard it was even before before all our times, right? Before television. Like even before, I mean, I'm sorry, not television, telephones.
Yeah.
Right. The idea, right, that you have to mail this letter and hope the recipient gets this.
Yeah.
Right. There's no guarantee that they're going to get this, right, unless they mail you back. Even that concept. So it's always it's a natural evolution to get to that point. But at times, it's, you know, you try to you pull from it and trying to pull from it. And going back to the point, I do think there's a positive as far as networking, engaging, whether maybe you have a business you want to start up, and instead of maybe paying for the advertising, now you have free advertising, not only through you, but even through those who follow you that can also now go out and share this information.
I think social media has a place, and the place that we can potentially put it into our lives can actually make our lives more fruitful. So for instance, with LinkedIn, Facebook, and other semi-professional type of communication platforms, I found my job. So I've had resumes seen, I've had connections, networking, like virtually. I'm an actor, so I wouldn't have gotten almost any of my acting parts without being in a Facebook group for actors in St. Louis. So it's the idea that without it, there might be barriers to entry barriers of entry for certain career paths and journeys that you might take that are just easily done with social media. And to build on that, even the fact that there's so many free sites just to gain knowledge of whether it's just I don't know, whether it's AI itself, or you can learn engineering or computer science or math. You could go on Khan Academy if you aren't versed in something in math or science or something. You can download books to read without having a physical book or a bookstore around you. I mean, imagine people that live in knowledge or resource deserts. The social media and the internet, and kind of putting them kind of together, are ways that people can build knowledge without the barriers of their physical placement sets, or even when it comes to race, gender, or any of those identities that might bring barriers to someone's entry into a specific place in like real life. But in your physical place, social media can kind of grant you entry into it. I think that's one of the great uses of social media.
Pansy Weedle says, I think that the long-term effects could be harmful to our youth who cannot function without social media. We are already witnessing their inability to socialize face-to-face or in general. That is a great point. And yes, and we actually are going to keep touching on that point. But I also still want to reflect on Naomi's point that she made. If we can open up to the next slide, because we're going to discuss, I think there's a lot of the points Naomi made goes in line with kind of the reasoning why it's such a powerful tool is because of those things, and why the gain for it. There is definitely a conversation to be had, just like the one we're having right now. And all you guys in Cyberland, the reason why you guys can hear my voice right now is because of platforms like YouTube that even allows that I can connect. I can say, hey guys, drop the fire. And what are you guys going to do? You see what I'm saying? So even just that in itself is powerful. So as we know, as Israelites, we are powerful. So how do we use our power? So some pros we have here, I think we mentioned it, was self-awareness. And we also, I think Naomi mentioned learning new things. And I think you can also add a part of that, almost having access to information and knowledge about things going on. And I think Micah mentioned that as well, as far as knowing what's going on in the world. So learning new things can range from a local thing happening in your community, but it can also range to what's going on in other countries. So it's a lot of access. So now, going back to Pansy's point, let's actually hit the cons and see what we're dealing with here. Okay, so now we're at the cons. And so these cons kind of almost reflect on the pros. The pros are connected to the cons, which is why we kind of would call this a double-edged sword. So while social media does spread awareness, the awareness itself causes the anxiety, and it causes the comparison, and it causes the stress. So seeing so much information and seeing people being able to, it says highlight reels on here, but I think another way to even verbalize that is it may not even necessarily be highlight reels, but it's just control of how you are seen, being able to control it. So I can post a sad story. It may not necessarily be a highlight reel, but I'm still trying to get something out of you to perceive me a certain way. And the minute I do that is the minute that you start to lose self-authenticity. So that's the trade-off that you see going on there. So we try to understand why mental health is such a concern nowadays. And a part of that has to do with, well, maybe there's too much awareness and too much to learn. Whereas back then you learned based off of what is in front of you. So your life is guided by what you have access to, and maybe that's what your life is supposed to be. But now you know what it's like, what this person's life is like. Now you know what that path is like. And so now you just see a bunch of paths and you don't know which path is your path. Mm-hmm. And you're worried about what will people think if I take this path, or what would people think if I take that path, even more so than just, before it'd be family, friends, community. And now you're thinking about the entire world with every decision. What do you guys think about that?
No, I think it's right on par, right? It gives you that false sense of perception. You start to doubt yourself based on what you perceive others to be, or what you perceive others to be doing. And then now you go down this slope, like you talk about the mental health. Then now, when you look at the numbers, the rise in anxieties in youth, because so many youth feel like they're inadequate based upon what they're seeing every time they're scrolling, or they go on these social media platforms, and the need to continue to go onto it, knowing it makes you feel a certain way, right? This is like it's about that addiction and how it attacks you and it hurts you. And we now are living with generations now. This is the only reality they've ever known.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. Like, that's scary. The only reality they've ever known is through these platforms. So much so, I think I see in the comment section, right? Sophia also says a lot of people is being used by social media. So much so now that they can't interact face to face. Everyone is socially awkward.
Yeah.
Because they need there's no barriers to hide behind when you're face to face with someone now.
And I want to add to that, Minister Anthony. What do we always say about Israel? That you cannot be in Israel alone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also very important to understand. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. You're perfectly fine, because the idea, or sometimes the way I perceive it, the idea of social media is to replace that. It's to replace the reality around you, so that these are your friends. This is all that you need. You don't have to ever leave the comfort of your home. Everything you have is at your fingertips.
And I feel like,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
And I feel like even when you create that environment where it's like, this is all that you need, this is all that you need to know, and then you look at social media and this is the example that you're setting, like, you follow certain people that he has a nice car, or he has a nice house, or she has a nice body, or whatever, right? And you create these ideals in your head, and now all of a sudden your standards are completely disingenuous to what reality really is, and what the average person is really capable of. Like, you will see so much success, you'll see so many scams, you'll see all these different things on social media, and you'll want to try everything. You'll want to try to do everything to be successful. You want to try to do everything to look like this or have that. Everybody wants everything, right? But it's not for everybody. Israel, we're in the world, but we're not of the world. You know what I'm saying? And you have to remember that, because if we get sucked into those things, and we get sucked into those pyramid schemes and those buy this my course or whatever, or get these bots and you can have 1 million followers, and you know what I'm saying, you'll create some ad revenue on, you know what I'm saying, like all these different things. You get caught up in that, and you completely lose sight of what's actually important. Like, you completely lose sight of the relationships in your life, your family, your friends, and you focus on this thing. Like, you try to cultivate social media and try to make it your entire identity, and that it's not healthy. I can see why everybody is so sick right now. Everybody is so obsessed with social media and being wanted and being looked at and all this stuff. But all that is fake. Like, I was even having a conversation with my sister the other day, because I was feeling a bit inadequate in where I was in life. And, I just, we're in a transition process where I'm in between different jobs and trying different things out just to see, what works. I'm young. And I was talking to her, and I was like, I see all these things on social media, and, people are way more ahead in life. I see all these people that I knew in high school going to trips in the desert and Dubai and Hawaii and all these different things. And I'm like, damn, they must be doing really good. And kind of brought me back down to earth. And she was like, you really don't know what their circumstances are. You don't know how much credit card debt they're in. You don't know if that's daddy's money. You don't know what situation, they're in. All that you could see is the projection they put onto the internet. You know what I'm saying? They control what you see, and whatever they post is whatever perception they want you to think. That's what you're going to see, and that's what you're going to compare yourself to. And then you go about your mundane everyday life, and it's like, dang, man, I could be in I could be in Belize right now if I just buy this guy's course. You know what I'm saying? It's like quick money real quick, and then it's all a lie, and it's all a lie.
Yeah.
So what you really need to be focused on is focus on where your power really comes from. You know, it's on your spirituality, because that is what's real. You know, that you could feel that, you can know and be secure in that, because that's where you find your identity. That's where you find out, you know, who you really are. You cultivate your soul and your spirit, like we talked about last lesson. Yeah, social media is poison. It's poison, complete poison.
What are your thoughts, Naomi?
I agree with what everyone has been saying. I think even though I think social media, like the comment just said, it depends how you go into social media. So if you go in with a purpose, like I want to find a job, or even I want to find a partner or a spouse, or I want to find friends, or I want to learn about this thing, social media can be very useful. And you have to go in with that in mind, right? And like border yourself and control yourself. That being said, it's very easy to get sucked into. But there are a lot of good things about it. But when we go on the cons, I feel like in a lot of ways they outweigh. I think social media, the way it is now, so it was created in order so people can connect with each other. As the world was getting bigger, and there were many different peoples, and people had similar interests, but they weren't in their town, or in different ways that people have found it useful. Like social media was for that reason. But we've kind of, while there was maybe mental health around depression and loneliness and misconnections, and that at that point that social media was created, the issues that it was solving, it kind of, the pendulum kind of switched so that it's actually quite worse than it was before. And I mean worse, not just mentally, but physically, spiritually, mentally. Like everything about it is against where we are supposed to be as a people and as Israelites. So I do think there are really great things about social media. I don't think I'm going to 100% stop social media. I have just, for like the 12th time, and for maybe the 13th time this year, deleted TikTok, like literally just before this, because it's a constant on and off. But I don't know if I'll stop 100% using certain aspects of social media, but I think the more I delete Instagram and TikTok, and I haven't had Snapchat for a while, but the more I delete those, the more I realize that I don't actually need them, because of how damaging it is. It's a way that people can get quick satisfaction, where they can feed their ego, or where they can be inauthentic and not genuine, where they can judge others and bash others. And there's so much about it that is just not good to have. And so I think the cons in this case, is kind of, as everyone was saying, do outweigh the pros in this case.
Yeah. And I think a point that everybody on the panel seems to be making seems to do with this endlessness. I think Minister Anthony described it, the endlessness, where there's an endless amount that you can have. And the God of Israel, he talks to us, and when he has described how we have acted towards him in the scriptures, oftentimes it says that we wanted honey, we wanted land, we wanted prosperity, and he provided us those things, and we waxed fat, right? And that really makes me think about, even we're in the information era, but we're also in the consumption era, in which, we have large companies pulling a lot of money. And how they're able to do that is because the people are waxing fat, because there's an endlessness that exists. And I think similar to your point, Naomi, is checking out allows you to realize you don't need it, right? It's almost like going on a diet, right? Maybe you're used to pizza every Tuesday, you're used to burger every Wednesday. But the moment that you decide to make that choice is the moment you realize that you actually don't need it, And it was probably very difficult the first 2 weeks. You're like, okay, what am I going to eat? And this apple is not doing it. You know what I'm saying? So I know what that feels like. but at the same time, your body adjusts. So what a predicament that we're in is, and I really feel bad for those even younger than me, which is why I wanted to get London on here, but is the fact that you are now conditioning the children to have a certain mindset from very young, right? And we know how it is how an undisciplined child grows. And there's so many examples of that in the scriptures, like an endless amount of that. So it just makes us realize that we have to be very careful as individuals, but also as a nation as well.
I think if one thing and there's so many things that you can get, endless things you could get from the God of Israel's teachings, but is that there should be boundaries and rules. So kids, especially kids, shouldn't have boundless access to the entire world at their fingertips. Like, that is unhealthy. That's illogical and counterintuitive in so many ways. If we're trying to raise Israelite children to become a full Israelite nation, I think it isn't something that is supposed to be in us, especially at such young ages. And so I think just talking about it more, it's just convincing me more and more that I should just continue to delete all of my apps, and make sure that I'm connecting truly, like mentally, physically, spiritually, with the world around me, so that I don't fall into those traps. Yeah.
Let's hit the next slide. I know we have a lot to say because this is a very heavy topic that affects us all the time. I think we just answered this. It was very interesting. The practical steps to limit social media use and focus on real life connections. I think, we mentioned this. And I mean, is there anything else you guys want to add to what has been said about it?
I feel like the media is unstoppable pretty much if you really think about it, because there's, even right now, there's still limitations to what children can see, but in a way that it's like, oh, there's this child version of this, you know what I'm saying? But even then, there's ways for them to maneuver around and still have access to the world. You can't really stop it at the end of the day. We can make people aware, and we could try to make people more hard on, keeping a boundary on social media. But I think that is at this point, it's kind of too big to stop, Yeah,
I agree.
And stop it in our individual lives. Like, go outside, touch some grass.
Lead by example. But
you know what I mean? Like, we can do things that are more productive than doing social media on a daily basis, where we get that same knowledge, nourishment, that same connection, but on a real basis and a real level.
And it's also like a lazy thing. Like, sometimes you just open your phone and it's like, okay, would I rather read a book or just look it up on Google really quick? It's too easy to be on social media, too easy to access the internet.
Let's head to the next slide, because there's a lot more. I know it's okay. I mean, the conversation is going to be very full. I knew that we wouldn't be able to touch every angle of it because it quite literally surrounds us. But I wanted to touch on this scripture here, because this is, we have, way back when, we know who our Psalms guy is. We have David and his camps. And this is coming out of David's camp. And we actually have been talking about David in St. Louis lately, and about his life journey. And his life is not simple at all, nor easy at all. And I can only imagine how things would play out if social media existed even back in this day, right? Because people had a lot to say. And honestly, this is the time of David and Saul, in which the opinions of people generally were loud, because this is the beginning of, kingdomhood within the nation. So we have our first king and our second king. So opinions and all these things are going to grow heavy. So they may not have had social media back then, but I think it's very relatable to read what David thinks about too many opinions in his life, right? So does anyone want to go ahead and give this a read?
I can read.
Okay.
Psalms 101. I will sing of mercy and judgment. Unto thee, O Lord, will I sing. I will behave myself wisely in a perfect way. O when wilt thou come unto me? I will walk within my house with a perfect heart. I will set no wicked thing before mine eyes. I hate the work of them that turn aside. It shall not cleave to me. A froward heart shall depart from me. I will not know a wicked person. Whoso privily slandereth his neighbor, him will I cut off. Him that hath a high look and proud heart will not I suffer. Mine eyes shall be upon the faithful of the land, that they may dwell with me. He that walketh in a perfect way, he shall serve me. He that worketh deceit shall not dwell within my house. He that telleth lies shall not tarry in my sight. I will destroy all the wicked of the land, that I may cut off all wicked doers from the city of the Lord.
Now,
I like this.
You see the power? Yeah.
And I love this. And just to kind of backtrack at what you were saying, right? There was no concept, right? Air quotations of social media, but the remnants of influence have always been there. And when you're reading this Psalms and you see the pouring out, right? The my feet are planted. I will set no wicked thing before mine eyes. I hate the work of them that turn aside. It shall not cleave to me. Right? Nothing. Whatever's around me, it will not. I don't care how much I don't care how overwhelming it is, how big it is, how loved it could possibly be. It will not cleave to me. I will not have a willful, deceitful heart. You know what I'm saying? Like I would. That's not going to be me. I'm not going to let this happen to me. I will sing of mercy and judgment like that. When beforehand, right? When I say beforehand, before Israel, I used to see Bible scriptures, and I was like, "That's crazy! Like who is singing for mercy? I can understand, but judgment? Like who wants judgment?" And being in Israel, being in the Israelite nation, it helps you understand just how powerful, beautiful, and unique that is. Yes, I want that mercy and judgment, right? I need those set points so that I can make sure I'm aligned to do what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. That I'm not over here being influenced by other nations, or I'm not being influenced by those who are following after their own hearts of what they may perceive and believe those things around them to be good, right? Or even more so, I'm not bringing those influences back home. And well, it's okay if I do this, and I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of that influence on it as well. And if we can bring the sounds back up, I'm sorry. Yeah, I like to have the visual as we're talking about it, just to, as a reminder. And I love this because you see the heart pouring out, and you just see the just how powerful it is when you have to have those reminders to tell yourself, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what's around me. It doesn't matter how low or high I may get, or I may think of myself. Like I know what the prize is. I know the heights that we have that no other people in the world has. We have a true living God that answers our prayers. No other people on this earth has that. They have no concept of what that is. I can actually raise my hands, say a prayer, and my God will hear me. Like that's so powerful. Even to try to even understand that sometimes is hard to really even put into words. It's hard for people can't understand that concept. And to this point,
we have to shout out Albert Crump for the donation. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, definitely, thank you, Albert.
5s and 7s, keep going, Minister Anthony.
Even when we mention social media, right? When we think about this, there is no way you can understand the fulfillment of prophecy. You can understand the fulfillment of being an Israelite through social media. There's no way. I don't care how many videos you watch. I don't care how many Bible scriptures you share and read. There's no way you're going to understand what it means to be an Israelite just through those platforms and through those channels. It's not sustainable. It's unrealistic. And with that, I'll digress.
No, we got to put some fires and some sevens for that, Mr. Anthony. Thank you so much. You know, we're Rise members, but it's just very nice to have a minister here with us to share his knowledge with us. That was so beautifully said. That was so beautifully said. Do you guys want to speak on that, Naomi or Micah?
I think this goes back to what we're talking about with parameters. I'm going to make a parallel from our time to David's time, and it might be a stretch. So let me know if it doesn't work. But so David was the second king of Israel. And before there were kings, there were tribes, villages, towns, right? The king melded us all together into a nation. So in a way, we're getting more into the world sphere and needing communication like songs and poetry in order to connect and reflect the current climate. That can be directly related to now, where we are in the second, third generation of when the world is just getting that much bigger and advancing that much. I mean, we're going at this point in David's age from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age, I believe, if I have that historical point correct. But there's lots of advances happening around the world that it needs the communication and the unity even that David is pointing towards in a lot of his songs, and that the fact that psalms and songs and poetry brings at that time in a way that maybe social media kind of mirrors, but in a totally bad way. But in a way that we also need to think about now is to kind of go back to the original way of communication that was able to meld us together, that reflects our current climate, which is that poetry and songs, and maybe even creating our own, and seeing the powerfulness, the power in that as a way to maybe counteract social media as well. That might be a stretch, but that was what I was thinking. And that's why I think going back in time is so powerful and so necessary when we're thinking about our current battles and things that we're fighting through as well.
No, I don't think it was a stretch at all, Naomi. And it goes to show you, right, that we have the answers, right? Just as our foreparents dealt with those influences and those things and the need for communications and how they handled it and how it needed to be handled, because the world is always ever evolving, newer technology, things are being introduced. But how are we making sure that we're grounded? We're going with we have to move with the world, right? We can't remain stagnant, but at the same time, we cannot let that influence us when it comes to serving our God. I think that's the battle and the difference with dealing with technology and dealing with Israel, making sure that we always stay lock in step.
Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna say, to emphasize Anthony's point, that just overall, David was a very strong, mentally strong person to be able to take all that influence, take all these opinions in a time where, like Naomi said, there was a lot of technological advances, a lot of things were changing in the world, kind of like right now. And imagine right now, and you are indulging in social media, and you have all this information, all this new information, and someone is telling you, hey, if you put this rock in this water, it'll turn to gold, or something like that, right? That's pretty much the equivalent to somebody going and telling David, like, oh, I believe this business strategy is gonna, influence your empire, da 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 da. And he's taking all these hypotheses and all these lies and all these wicked people with wicked intentions coming to him, and he's able to block all of that and then continue to stay steadfast and know that, okay, I know where my power comes from, and I know where my answers are going to come from as well. and I know who my people are, my counsel is. I can't let all these other outside influences, all this wickedness, this evil, these lies, these slanders against their neighbor, against me, influence me in my decision making. So I just thought that, David is a very mentally strong person for even being able to block that out, because even now people are still affected by hate comments and all this other stuff. Like things that you consume, even if you tell yourself you're not affected, you're affected by all these things. So
we're gonna get into, yeah.
No, I just want to add another layer on top of this, right? It wasn't the outside world that was coming after David. It was his own that was coming after him.
Yeah.
You talk about mental toughness, and how do you navigate that? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's what and to correlate that even to today, that's why it's important to remain connected and grounded, because you don't have to worry about those that's on the outside coming for you. It's those that stand lockstep with you and tell you that, hey, I'm there with you. I'm going to ride with you. And if their influence, and now their influence comes towards you, now how do you battle that? Now, how do you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you put yourself in the mindset? Because we're always ready for the battle that's in front of us, but it's the one that's coming on the side of us or the one behind us.
That's hard to see.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one where it's like, oh man, I didn't see this coming. How am I going to deal with this?
So we always talk about the principalities, right? It's not a physical fight. It's not a physical fight. It is a fight for your spirit, a fight for your time, a fight for your mind. These are where we have to understand that as a people, we have been susceptible. So this isn't the first time we've been susceptible to bad influences, but it is a time in which we need to enact, similar to Psalms 101, a sense of discipline to the things that we consume, a sense of discipline to the things that we allow into our space. I love everybody's opinions. I think that it's a really good conversation. I'm loving the comments. I think that there's so much to learn about this, and I genuinely think that it's a topic that is so needed in this time period, because these things are getting very, very powerful. All right, let's turn to the next slide, and I think we're going to talk about those same things Minister Anthony mentioned regarding it is not the battle that you see right in front of you, but it is the battle that you don't even know is happening. So it is a fact that social media alters your perception of reality, right? So there's a lot of research done on things, and we can use research as we need to as Israelites, and sometimes it can be helpful to know things. And so this research was done, and it explains that when you see something, even on social media, that you see on there, it suddenly appears everywhere that you go, right? So it makes people believe that the things that they see on social media is more common than it actually is. So it can make you believe that what you believe is not the majority belief, or it can make you believe what is the minority belief actually is the majority belief. And so now you go out living your life with the wrong perception of what is real. And I think that, to me, seems extremely scary, because you're doing this on a subconscious level that you don't even understand. And we all are doing it all the time, and we don't even realize it. So it makes me think about that Psalms 101 regarding it shall not cleave to me. I think understanding these things and knowing these things is important for you to truly be able to enact into your David state and allow these things not to cleave to you. What do you guys think so far?
I think cleave is such an apt description, especially when it comes to the subconscious and thinking about how things that we subconsciously intake, whether it be outright propaganda, things we read, what we watch, what we hear, does cleave onto our identity. So it bleeds into each other. So for instance, we don't just visualize things. The way our brain works, it takes in information, it processes it, and some of it sticks. It's not just a clean through and through, where it's in one ear and out the other, or something like that. It's more of a, you are intaking everything, and as the world as it is now, it's not so great in so many ways. I mean, if you look at just political, economically, socially, kind of everywhere, it's kind of in a transition phase. It's kind of in shambles. A lot of it is. And so I think when we cleave, or when those things that we are in our surroundings, especially when social media broadens those horizons, that more and more bad stuff and gross, icky stuff can stick onto us and cleave into our subconscious and our identity. So I think that's a very apt description.
I like that, Naomi. That was very, very eloquent. No, but I think it was, man, that perception. It is so, it reminds me of the Kyrie Irving situation a couple years ago. Sharing the video about Israelites and the whole concept of, who are the real Israelites, and just the immediate backlash, or the immediate just coming for his throat, right? But then when the I don't know what to call it, right? When the, I guess, social media warriors came and fought, and it was like, hey, whoa, wait a minute, like it forced people to really start to look and say, wow, this is different, right? But without that platform, without that tool, this is something we probably would not have even thought about, or even like you said, subconsciously, even would have just washed away. Like, they just, them black folks, they talk and think anything. They gonna say anything, right? And now you have the opportunity. That's why, again, going back to the pros and cons of it can help take a reality that you've been living, right? That is being said that children of slavery are just children of slavery. That's it. No more, no less. They came with no gods. They came with no culture. They came with nothing. And here we are. We civilized them. We got them out of the jungle. We put clothes on their backs, and now they're civilized now. Or now we have the ability now to create to change the perception. I mean, change the reality to the perception of the truth, and saying, no, you are more than just a child of slavery. You are children of the living God. You have a culture. You have a purpose. You have a standard. Now let's reintroduce you to that standard. So I definitely I love it from that aspect, right? Of it being able to change that perception.
You have a standard. That's it right there. When you said you are more, it reminded me of the I Am More events that we even had ago. So I think that's very beautifully said. Micah, do you wanted to add something?
No, I think that Anthony and Naomi summed it up pretty well, actually. Like the way that people perceive us, like, it can change drastically now that we have social media. Like, even like you said before in the beginning, this being on this platform, if we even get one person to stop and listen for a second, and just get curious, and like, even if they forget about it for a while, but they have that idea in their mind that, maybe these guys were onto something, I feel like that is a beautiful thing. And the more people that we could get the truth out to, the more people we can have aware. And that's a win for everybody in my book. The win for the God of Israel.
Yep. It is a win for the God of Israel, because that's what we want to do. We want to set those standards for our people, and we want, as Israelites, for us to be aware of our strengths, to understand how strong we are, and to not be pulled down by even the weaknesses that the world and social media and everyone's opinion does to you. So it just brings me right back to that Psalms regarding getting rid of those voices and stepping into a sense of even slowing down, and taking a breath, and even and utilizing the tools that the God of Israel has given us: prayer, fasting, our holy days. It really makes me think about even our Sabbaths, how essential that is to our culture, but not even just our culture. It's essential to quite literally the creation of the universe. You understand? Like before all of this, before life existed on this planet, the God of Israel had a plan, and the first thing he did was rest, right? And I think that's something that we really need to take into account, that even utilizing our holy days and utilizing our ability to actually slow our mind is the goal, right? I think we had a Rise member, Zebulon Jackson. If you are there, what's up? He said that a lot of online is filled with digital junk. And I think that's very, very important to mention, because the junk itself, it's, as Minister Anthony called it, a drug. And we saw in the cons that it does work the same way as a drug in its addiction-like qualities. And that what addictions do is that it speeds up your mind until the next time you do it. You understand? So you're not able to take in any of the good parts of life. You understand? And so, so maybe that walk and that talk, and what is it? It also reads, and there's so much to quote. If you literally, our Bible, our hand script, it is quite literally has so much in there for us to consume and to understand about how we can be better. And a piece of it speaks about when you sit at the table, when you're with your family, when you wake up, when you go to sleep, right? What should be on your mind? The God of Israel. And what have we replaced that with? Really understanding how important that the things that we consume affect our spirit. So when you talk about, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I feel bad, I feel slow, there's so much going on there, and it requires a true self-assessment. It truly does, because nobody knows what you're doing on your Tuesday evenings. We don't know, but it's up to you. And just like David, it's a self-assessment. It shall not cleave to me. He can't control what cleaves to Saul. He can't control what cleaves to whoever is in his camp. He can't control everybody, but he can control him, and he can try to be a good example for those that he surrounds. And that's all he's trying to do. Yeah.
Amen. I love it, Ezra. Love it.
Yeah, 7 fires. This got heated there, and I agree with everything you said, and it just perfectly sums up, I think, what we're all kind of thinking as well. So that's great.
And think of how perfect the God of Israel is, right? This is like you said, I need to establish a universal law that's going to last the millennia, that this will help anything out, which is rest. This is the time, rest and reflection. Everything, whether it be the people, the land, the animals, whatever it may be. But no, there's a point in time where rest, put it away. Just absolutely put it away. And to establish that so long ago, again, it just shows you just how awesome the God of Israel is, and just how connected we are. When you are connected to the source, and how it helps you stay. It helps you stay in a position that's like we read about David, to where you have the mindset not to get caught up in it, not to be like, oh, I've been doing this for an hour, or I've been doing this for 6 hours. You know what? Let me go pray. Let me go pray to the God of Israel. Let me go, you know what I'm saying? Let me go reflect on the God of Israel.
Yeah.
Let me take that time to really build up my spirituality, so that I'm not a zombie out here.
It's crazy how much time you have to do those things when you do decide to cut those other things out.
Oh, man.
It's crazy how much your faith increases whenever that happens. It's crazy how much faith you can feel after Sabbath or after atonement versus after work or after, your average day. But there's a reason for that. It's crazy how powerful you can feel when you walk out the altar, right? There's a reason for these things, right? And so I think it's just very important that you understand that input is output, So I think there was a lesson done about staying in the spirit, being rooted in the spirit. On Friday and on Saturday, that's what we're always talking about, staying in the spirit, rooted in the spirit. What does that mean? And understanding that you can actually be pushed off of the spirit by a whole bunch of other things that have nothing to do with the spirit. So what does it have to do with you as an Israelite?
Mm.
Mm.
Mm. I love that. What you get out is what you put in. I mean,
Yeah.
what you put in is what you get out.
Thank you, D, for the donation and the fires. Thank you so much for this. Yes, man. Yes, man. Keep it coming, man. We love it so much because of you guys out there in Cyberland. See, this is a positive use, right? Look what we're doing, a positive use of even this cyber. So we thank you so much out there. We love to interact with you guys and to read your comments. Yeah, so let's keep the ball rolling. We don't have too much more time with you guys, but we appreciate the time you allow us. Go out there and pray after this. All right. So we have another one here where we have another fact upon your head top, right? So understanding that negative content sticks in your brain longer than positive content. So even going right back to that Psalms, a lot of the stuff out there is an endless doom of negativity. It's an endless cycle of what Minister Anthony mentioned as even a destruction of even your perception as a people, right? So even your own standards can be lowered purely because that is all you see of yourself, right? Your own communities can be crumbled because of these things, where if one person in the community is contributing negativity, it actually affects a lot of people in the community. So guarding that spirit. Let's go to the next slide. I think we have a slight delay. Before we get to the next slide, does anyone want to add about this one?
I was gonna add that I feel like the way that social media is set up right now and the anonymity of pretty much everyone online, I feel like that just amplifies the negativity, even beyond whatever David could have been facing. Because not only do you have people that giving their opinions, but you also have people like strangers just coming at you for no reason. They don't know you, they don't know anything about you, but yet they have all these opinions about you and whatever that you put on the internet. So I just feel like that could be really detrimental to youth who are very impressionable about that kind of thing, because social media is meant to be a platform where you could just express yourself and the things that you enjoy. And then, when that's subject to the world and they bash it and they beat it to nothing, that crushes dreams, So that's, very bad for you.
Shout out to Willie Jackson on the donation.
Shout out Willie Jackson with a $10 donation. Thank you so much. We appreciate all the donations that you guys give. Fires in the chat for that. Thank you.
Please. I'm sorry, you can continue your point, Micah.
I feel like that was pretty much it. They just the amplified negativity is just bad. And nobody, like, putting a face to a name, at least you could be like, okay, this person doesn't mess with me. But then when it's no face and then it's just constant negativity, you feel like the world is out to get you, right? And then when you do something that you love or something that you really care about or your ideals, you just feel lost, So you can't just be all in on this social media thing. You got to have something else. You got to have something else to look up to, something else to know that's grounding you. And that's where your spirituality is supposed to kick in. And, a lot of people nowadays don't value their spirituality as much as they should. And that's why you're seeing a lot of mental illness and stuff on the rise, because people don't know what to look to.
Yes, definitely. And I think if you look at it, right, it's the need to be on the right side of history that you deal with a lot of people, which is it's that group thought, right, which directly is in opposition of Israel. It's direct opposition, right, because we don't see the world through a lens of good or evil, right? We see the world through the lens of righteous versus unrighteousness. And when we see these concepts that come out there, right, where they say, well, we don't do Christmas, we do this, right? Or we don't do that, we do this. And for us, all of those things are wrong. All of those things are bad, right? Or not even bad. For us, it's wrong and bad. And that's why we stay, and shout out to Elder Michael, right? We stay in our own spiritual lane, right? We don't run out to say, hey, this is, stop doing this, or don't do that, or don't do that. Hey, according to our history, according to the standard that our foreparents set, this is the route in which we take.
I really, really love that point, Minister Anthony. I really, really do, because I truly believe that a part of the distraction is almost. We talk about when we came out the wilderness of Egypt, how our goal was to actually allow ourselves to not be influenced by other people, and part of that is almost not letting those other people influence you. You understand? And so how that occurs is by a self-confidence. You need to be rooted in your spirit. Don't worry about what they're doing. Don't worry about what they're doing. Don't worry about what they're doing. What are you doing? What is your role? What spirit are you rooted in? What are your values? What are your holy days? Those are the most important things for you to understand. And that is where the confidence comes in as an Israelite to walk the walk. So you can't trust in numbers. If you start trusting in numbers, then you're simply doubting your own ability. You're simply doubting your own ability to reach out to the God of Israel, and doubting your own ability to open up that sea. You're doubting your ability to create your own miracles. I think Michael mentioned the comments and, people's dreams getting crushed. I think part of that, whether it's your dreams career wise or whether it's your spirituality and your faith, I think as an Israelite, our spirituality is our root. So once things start cutting in there, that's the moment that you have to say enough, and understand that your confidence, your grit, whether it's your strength as a man, whether your strength as a woman, is coming from your spirituality, and to not let anything affect that.
Amen. No, I love that. Can you imagine trying to coming out of Egypt, trying to establish this culture in the land of Canaan? Can you, what I'm saying? Can you see that, trying to put this all together? You're dealing with babes. You're trying to put this all together, and all of these things are around you. All of these influences are around you. Not just things you've never done before. Hey, I used to do that over there. I used to do those things over there. I think I want to go out. I think I want to take that in. I want to go do that, and trying to establish that. So you see the importance that the God of Israel had, which was that isolation. To be like, I need you guys to myself. Because when I have you guys to myself, we can build this foundation together. So much so, just like the point you made, Ezra, that you will be strong enough to withstand anything that comes your way. You won't have to worry about how loud they are, how big they are, because you're already rooted. The roots has been planted. Now you're a full-blown tree. Psalms 1. Go back to Psalms 1. We talked about that before on the lesson. Now there's nothing that can shake you down or take you down.
You wanted to add to that, Naomi?
Yes, kind of going a little back, but it's still connected. We talk a little bit about the idea of the individual versus the group. And I think that is so vital, and even talking about spirituality, because one doesn't happen without the other. And when it's a negative spiritual environment, like, say, even the cyber world of social media, where there is groupthink, like Minister Anthony was talking about, I think groupthink is a byproduct of being unified in spirit. So you are unknowingly attaching your spiritual self, your personality, your thoughts, your actions, your belief and values to whatever, like we said, the social media cleaves onto you. So whatever you're seeing on social media, and you are disengaging from the unified spirit in which we are supposed to be in. And so I think when we talk about individuality versus the group, it's such an important thing to talk about, because you as an individual have to be so right within yourself that you don't damage the group. And the group think in that way is bad, and it's overreaching, it's all consuming. But group think in the way that that we're supposed to be, where it is a byproduct of us being in one spirit, one belief, same value system, is a good thing, where we can move together and move as one. But I think when we have our own personal view into a bad spiritual cyber environment, it kind of brings us away from that group. And we're not just by ourselves. I don't think we do it. Even if you're in your room by yourself watching social media, you're not by yourself. You're almost never alone. You are either in this group or in our group. It's not I'm just an individual thing. So you as an individual are kind of branching off into the wrong thing. And so I think that discussion between communication and spirituality when it comes to individuality and group is really interesting. And there's a lot of things to go get into with that topic of how it applies either way. Yeah.
Super points. Super points. Wow. Let's get some sevens and the fires in the chat for that one. Nice. Yeah, that was amazing connection. Amazing connection. Yes. All right, so let's keep going with our presentation. And I think we were trying to get to this slide for a while, but I'm glad that we stayed on that last one. So I have a multiple choice question for you guys, and you guys in Cyberland can try and figure this one out. But we have a question that says, who should give you praise? All right. Not who you should praise. We know who that is. All right. That's the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob forever. For generation after generation. You can go read that. But who should give you praise? Right. As a person, you want to feel, good about yourself. Where should that praise come from? So we have A, myself, right? Self-praise. We're in this, self-love era now. B, friends and family. C, strangers. Or D, both B and C. Now, I think my panelists are going to be biased in answering this question. But I just want to give you guys just a little bit of time in Cyberland just to think about it. Shoot out thoughts, comments, whatever you guys have. Without revealing the answer, does anyone just want to speak about it?
Yeah, I just want to give a quick thought to it. As we're blessed in this world by the God of Israel, our light will be so bright and shine that others will not only see it but flock to it, and they will want to come and serve our God with us because of the blessings that they see being bestowed upon us, of the righteousness that they see with us, the wisdom, everything, the music, whatever you may have it. They see all those things, and that's going to make them say, yes, yes. I don't know who those people are, but whatever God they serve, I want that God. I want to serve that God. I want to be lockstep with them as we walk in this journey together. But I'm not going to give the answer away.
No, that's perfect. I mean, I think an example we can have is we have to think about the people that we look up to when we read our book. And how did they think, right? The people that we truly admire. And of course, we don't know everything about their lives, but how did they think? When they won, what did they say? When they lost, what did they say? When they were acknowledged for something, what did they say? Right. And I think a big piece of that is understanding that it was never about self, right? Mm-hmm. David said, look, I want to build the temple. It's not because I'm so great. I want everyone to see all this gold. When Solomon actually executed that, it's not, oh, we're so great because look at all this gold. And we're not going to take a picture of it and be like, bro, look at our temple. It's like, no, it's different. It's deeper than that. This is coming out the bottom of my heart because I want to give this. If you think it's so great, well, then come join us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, we're connected to the source that put the sun in the sky.
Exactly. So you have to let that light show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's nothing, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's nothing else that could be said. Yeah. Right? Just like you mentioned, right? Here in St. Louis, covering the journey of David and just going through that, understanding his heart, his mind, his everything was connected with the God of Israel. And being on one accord with the God of Israel, what can't you do? What's stopping you from anything, even through the hardships? what's stopping you from becoming and doing anything you want to do, even through that? And I think a lot of times, and I'm personally speaking as well, we get defeated by our own minds. We tell ourselves, whether it be the influence through social media or the influence through friends, right? Hopefully not family, but we get discouraged through that instead of understanding that, wait a minute, I'm this is the same God that helped us, that made the dry ground on the Red Sea. This is the same God that Elijah called upon, that Moses called upon, that Jesus the Christ called upon, the one that called each and every last one of us, even to this stage of our life. So what's more powerful than that?
It says that the greatest of you is actually the least of you.
Amen.
Right. To be a leader is to be a servant. So let's turn and let's get some advice from the wisest man who walked this planet. So let's see what's going on. So we're hearing here from our very own King Solomon, what he believes about this and how we can get to our answer. It says, Proverbs 27, verse 2, let another man praise thee, and not thine own mouth, a stranger, and not thine own lips. What do you guys think of that?
I think that is, like we said, someone mentioned that there's a lot of self-love culture going on right now. And it's not that you aren't supposed to love, respect, and like yourself. I think praise is such a very specific word, and it's used in this instance because we praise like things that a lot of times are bigger than us, the people that we admire, that we look up to, that we want to, like, it's on a higher level, I would say, than just liking or loving someone, because there is some sort of worship to it, and we shouldn't worship ourselves. I think in the age of social media, with people that are thinking about the followers or the people that they interact with online, there is a lot of self-worship and self-praise going on that is just being fed at them through the communities in which they are creating, over and over and over again in this little kind of echo chamber. But that isn't a good thing. I think there is a level of self-love and self-like that everyone should have, because that's just the basis of being a healthy and moving human being. But when it comes to praise, I think praise is such a very specific word that isn't something that you should praise yourself, because that can be very egocentric and you can only think about your individual and not the group. But leave it up to others, and don't try to, get people to praise you. I don't even say that either. I think it's leave it up to others to think that you're great, to hold you up to this sort of level, but you just keep doing what you're doing. That's not what you're focusing on, I think also is the point as well.
Yep. I think that's very well said, because we don't want to take out the fact that you should be proud of yourself. You should be proud of the things you do. That's what motivates you, to do the things you do. So in no way do you stop loving yourself, you stop respecting yourself. If anything, you are the most important person in your life, right? But when it comes to praise, we're living in a hyper self-praise, oh, look at me era, in which that's something that we know that is against what we want to do, as Naomi spoke about. And so it's very important that we understand that a lot of the things and the leaders that we have looked up to, I'm trying to give an example. I'm thinking about David, I'm thinking about Solomon, as we are speaking about, and how, their reasonings for the things they do is so that they can give it back to the God of Israel, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Give it back to the God of Israel. And that's the key point.
Yep.
So if someone says, oh, you're so great, it's like, hey, look, thanks, but I don't want to take that in for myself, because I didn't do this. Oh, Moses, you're so great. It's like, well, my job was to lift the rod and open the sea. Did I open the sea? You understand? So it's that same, testament that we need to remember, even in our daily lives, even in the things we accomplish, so that we always remain humble, because we are all underneath the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.
Amen. Amen. I love that, Ezra. I think you went on mute.
Sorry about that. Let's go to the next slide where we have our answer revealed. So the answer was D. And I mean, partially, I could even say that, you can really even emphasize on that C piece, because, if they are friends and family, and they are, your Israelite friends and family, then we all know where our praise goes towards, even past that. But it is nice to know that your family is in support of you, of course. All right, so let's go to our next slide. Okay, and so okay, yes, let's do this. Okay, so our third fact we have is the fact that the illusion of social approval influences behavior. And this really relates to what we just touched on. We don't have that much time left, but I do still want to just finish this out just so we understand this, is that seeing these things and seeing this approval, it feeds into that same rhetoric that we just spoke about, as far as receiving praise and then getting validation from others, when that is not where your source of power should lay. So we can go to the next slide. And these are thinkers. I think this would be a really good slide to finalize on. So if you guys want to just take these in to think about them and to give your final remarks regarding how do we balance this? And of course, how do we balance this as Israelites? Because our spiritual growth is so vital. So any final remarks from everybody?
Yeah, I just want to say that our self-worth and our self-value is rooted in the God of Israel. So there can't be any slander, there can't be anything, any nonsense out there that should be able to knock us off our perch, because we are connected to the most powerful being ever, period, right? That covenant was made thousands of years ago in blood, and it applies to us even unto this very day. And so my thoughts on social media is like everything, right? Moderation. But even within moderation, I'll say with social media, use extreme moderation. And always look towards the God of Israel, so that you're always grounded in all that you do.
You are muted.
I just want to say, very well said. Very well said.
Another thought is I encourage everyone to really delete TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat and all of those social media devices. I try to do it almost every couple of months, and I'm getting better. And it is a hard thing to do because the world is run on social media, and it's run on things that are developed there, and you might be missing out on some things. But I think the connection that we get from each other is much more valuable than the connection or even some of the knowledge that we get on those devices. And if you can't cut it out, I would suggest just taking breaks every now and then, because it's like picking your head up and not realizing that you were in the sun this entire time, and being outside and being able to feel not just nature, but people, and to learn more things about yourself. So I really appreciate this lesson for reminding me of that, because I do need that reminder, as a lot of other people do, to do that. And yeah, I appreciate talking with you guys about this, and thanks for this topic and this conversation.
I want to say that one of the main takeaways I think that we should all get from this lesson is that when comparing social media to reality, their main difference is authenticity. Just be real with yourself, at the end of the day, what I'm saying, when you go to bed at night, you're going to take whatever information or whatever energy that you bring in, you're going to take that with you and you're going to carry that forever, right? So just know that, like Minister Anthony said, that where your power comes from is the God of Israel, and stay grounded in that. And as long as you do that and you stay authentic to that, then you'll be okay. None of the wickedness and the lies will affect you. You'll have a shield. You have a shield against it.
It's perfectly said. I think that was the perfect last words, Micah. Like, I literally perfect last words. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this Friday night. Thank you, Minister Anthony, for joining us on our Rise discussion. Thank you, St. Louis. And with that, I say peace.